So in this activity, you've got to ask somebody to type in two numbers. They're going to be added together by the program, and then you're going to output the answer to the screen. So you know how to do some of this already. You've already asked people to type things in. You've already used print to output. So we're going to use some of those same skills again, but things are slightly different this time. Let's start off the way that you've been taught so far. So we're going to just ask them to input the first number. So we need a variable. I'm going to call mine num1. I'm going to say num1 equals input. Please type in your first number. And then if I want a second number, I could repeat that. But this time I'm going to call it number 2 or num2 and just change the text. Notice how I copied and pasted there just to save a bit of time. So if I run that as it is, it will ask me for two numbers. So I'm going to type in, say, a 2 and a 5. So it asks me for two numbers. That's all it does so far. Now, what I then need to do is add them together and then put the answer on the screen. Now, this isn't going to work, but I'm going to do it anyway. So let's try adding them together. So I'm going to make a new variable called answer equals, and num1 plus num2 you would think is fairly sensible. So that should add num1 and num2 together. And then to print that on the screen, we would just print the answer, which is that variable there. Now that looks like it should work. Let's try running it. Put in a 3, put in a 4, it should give us 7. But instead, it gives us 34. Because what it's done is it's treat number 1 and number 2 as a string. So it just puts those two numbers together, the two characters, one after the other. Just like if we typed in hello and how are you, for those two things, it would put hello, how are you, one after the other. Now, what we need to do is tell it that these numbers are integers. It needs to know that this data is an integer so that it can add it together. Think back about what we talked about in the presentation as a class. So to get this to understand that these are integers, we need to put something before the input. And what we type is int. And then everything after the int goes in brackets. So that means everything that's in those brackets is going to turn into an integer if it can. Obviously, if you type in text, it's not going to let you because it can't turn text into an integer. But if it's a number, it's going to turn it into an integer. So let's run that and see what happens this time. So the first number, we'll use the same as before, a 3 and a 4. Last time it gave us 3, 4. This time it gives us 7 because it recognizes these are integers because we've put the int at the start there. Just out of curiosity, let's run it and try typing two words in. Hello. As soon as you type it in, it tells you there's a problem because hello can't be an integer because it's not a whole number. So if you wanted a string, you can't use the int at the start. It would just be input. But if you want it to be a number, you have to use the int. I hope that makes sense. Obviously, you're going to give this a go and make sure that you put your screenshot in your journal.